Good evening, Facebook Live. We welcome you again this week to our 40 weeks of reading the Bible. Rob, we're on week 10 tonight.
It's hard to believe we've been
25%.
Fourth of the way through.
25% after tonight
awesome.
we'll have read the Bible.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't seem that long to me.
Yeah.
But we thank you that are tuning in faithfully. And I'm going to encourage you tonight to send us a message if you're tuning in. Rob's going to keep track a little bit here and there, and he'll answer your messages. And we're still looking for readers. I'm revamping the readers. We got a new reader tonight. But like I said, I've only got about 10 friends. So I need some more of you people to...
Biggest lie you ever said.
The more you people to volunteer to read. It's a great honor to read, and I think it's a blessing for the people that are listening, and it's a blessing for those that participate in the thing. So it's a good thing. Tonight I have two guests. Mr. Frank, I'm not going to introduce him too much because is this your third time reading?
Yes, sir.
Third time reading in the last 10 weeks, so that's awesome. And I have a great friend of mine, James Sandlin, tonight. James, I'm going to start with you tonight because I know you got a lot of story. You got a lot of story. James, I met him through a ministry called Young Life, which is a ministry that connects college students to our high school kids and junior high kids. James was in the wildlife program, which was the junior high version. And what we do is people of faith come to our schools and share Jesus. They do that in many ways. So let me ask you to promote a little Young Life.
Yeah. Young Life is great. I led Young Life for 4 years here in Harrison, and it's super cool because it just plops you down right in the middle of where you have no idea what you're doing. And it's so beautiful because you just get to trust God, walking into a school you've never been in, and meet kids and tell them about Jesus. I mean, there's nothing else that's going to test you and make your faith stronger when you don't know anybody and you're called to go serve those kids. But it's an awesome ministry. I mean, they are just thriving and bringing kids to Christ all the time. So it's cool. It was really cool to be part of it for a long time.
Not to put you on the spot, but that's what I'm good at.
Yeah.
Don't name names, but can you remember one particular kid or story about your time that you spent at Harrison Junior School?
Yeah, I got a lot.
Give me one.
Give me a closer revamp. You want? All right.
Yeah.
I had a really cool instance. The cool thing about Young Life is you don't even meet these kids, but you meet their families. Mm-hmm. And just like you had a very similar come to Jesus moment from your kids. Mm-hmm. And I was ministering to this kid, and I've been loving him a long time. It's just rough life. And his mom happened to be around, and his mom was a big reason for him just being in and out. And he was living with his grandparents at the time. And I was outside just talking with this kid, and then his mom came out and was just like, "Hey, I need you to pray with me." Wow. She's like, "I'm just struggling, and I'm on drugs, and just let it all loose." Wow. And then their grandparents came out, and it was all five of us, and we all just sat and prayed together, and it was such a blessing for me, but it was even more a blessing for the kid that I was ministering to see his mom, who he knew was struggling. Yeah. And then the grandparents be there. It was just like something you don't make that happen. You know, you don't plan for those things. Yeah. God gives them to you, and they're gifts. They're gifts to us. Even if I don't know really what happened after that. That was all God just gave me that little bit, but it was special, you know. And when you move and you go, like God does crazy things you would never expect.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
When you go try to serve him,
Yeah.
he flips it on you
Yeah.
time after time after time.
Yeah.
That's a great story. Thank you, brother, for sharing
Yeah,
that.
for sure.
Mr. Frank, what's going on with you these
Oh
days?
man, life is good. There's a whole lot going on at church. A lot of neat things happening. I'm getting to read to some homeschool kids who normally don't get the opportunity to hear me because I usually read in public schools, but I'm reading to some homeschool kids. I got to do some middle school kids read to them today, and usually I read, I do a devotion for them, and then read to the elementary kids. Well, the elementary kids weren't there today, so I got to do a devotion, and then I got to read these kids a book. These are middle schoolers, and usually I don't get to read to them. I just do a devotion for them.
They're probably too cool for you to be reading to them.
No, they enjoyed the story. They enjoyed the story. I read Mr. Peabody's Apples. It was a great story about the power of your tongue, the power of your tongue, and how your words can destroy people's lives. And it's a really good book that teaches these kids, watch what you say about people. Watch what's the words that come out of your mouth. And so
Yeah.
that's a great
Sounds
thing.
like James to me right there.
Yeah.
Well, tonight I want to ask you, do you have a favorite verse? Matter of fact, I think we were talking a little bit about that.
Yes, I have a bunch of favorite verses. In fact, the book, since we have James here, I thought I'd tell you guys my favorite book out of the book, favorite verse out of the book of James, and it's James 5:13. And that says, if anyone among you in trouble, let them pray. If anyone happy, let them sing songs of praise. Is anyone among you sick? Let them call the elders of the church to pray over them and anoint them with oil in the name of the Lord. And the prayer offered in faith will make the sick person well. The Lord will raise them up, and if they have sinned, they will be forgiven. And therefore, confess your sins to each other and pray for each other so you may be healed. The prayer of a righteous man, a righteous person, is powerful and effective. Oh, and that's so very important that we as elders, that we anoint the sick person and pray for him. We just put there's nothing magic in the oil, there's nothing, but there is power in that prayer. And it's effective, and so God hears our prayers and stuff. So if you're sick and in trouble, go to them elders
Yes.
as a church and have them pray over you and anoint you.
Great advice. Great advice. I've seen that work many times.
It,
Many times. For me.
Yes,
Yes.
yes, and it works for lots of people,
Yeah.
lots of people.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't take advantage of that. They're
Pride.
just pride. Especially men.
Yeah.
Men are prideful. I don't need that. I got this. My temperature's only 105, and it's only been 105 for 4 days. I'm okay. I got this. I'm under control. And so, you know.
They're foolish, aren't they?
That's true.
James, do you have a favorite
Yeah.
verse of the Bible?
Yeah, we'll stick with James, and I'm not being prideful. And I say my favorite verse is James, but James 1, 2, and 3. Consider it pure joy when you face trials of many kinds. The testing of your faith develops perseverance. It's so true.
Yeah.
Yep.
This
Yep.
world is full of trials. isn't
Yeah,
it?
it's good though. I mean, it's the one thing that holds you true, man. When you're just in the middle of it, in the middle of the muck, that's the one thing when God is just pulling it out of you. You know, like we've all been in those hard times where it's just like, there's no way out. There's this does not make sense. These numbers don't add up. And God is just pulling that faith out of you. There's nothing that brings you to your knees and just makes you, like, it just, the trials brings you to a crossroads. He makes you get off the fence. Either you're going to follow me or you're not. Like, let's pick one. So that's why I love that verse. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, for sure.
I appreciate that. You're going to start reading tonight,
Let's do it.
and you're going to be in Deuteronomy
Yeah, 28.
28.
Yep.
All right. Well, sounds good. We'll get started.
Sweet. Move forward, are you?
All right. Deuteronomy 28. Blessings for obedience. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commandments I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. You will be blessed in the city and blessed in the country. Your fruit of your womb will be blessed, and the crops of your land and the young of your livestock, the calves of your herd and the lambs of your flocks. Your basket and your kneading through will be blessing. You'll be blessed when you come in and blessed when you go out. The Lord will grant that the enemies who rise up against you will be defeated before you. They will come at you from one direction, but flee you in seven. The Lord will send a blessing on your barns and on everything you put your hand to. The Lord your God will bless you in the land he is giving you. The Lord will establish you as his holy people, as he promised you on oath, if you keep the commands of the Lord your God and walk in obedience to him. Then all the people on earth will see that you are called by the name of the Lord, and they will fear you. The Lord will grant you abundant prosperity, and the fruit of your womb, the young of your livestock, and the crops of your ground, and the land he swore to your ancestors to give you. The Lord will open the heavens, the storehouses of his bounty, to send rain on your land in season, and to bless all the work of your hands. You will lend to many nations, but will borrow from none. The Lord will make you the head, not the tail. If you pay attention to the commandments of the Lord your God that I give you this day, and carefully follow them, you will always be at the top, never at the bottom. Do not turn aside from any of the commandments I give you today, to the right or to the left, following other gods and serving them. Curses for disobedience. However, if you do not obey the Lord your God, and do not carefully follow all his commandments and decrees I am giving you today, all these curses will come on you and overtake you. You will be cursed in this city and cursed in the country. Your basket and your kneading through will be cursed. The fruit of your womb will be cursed, and the crops of your land, and the calves of your herd, and the lambs of your flock. You will be cursed when you come in, and cursed when you go out. The Lord will send on you curses, confusion, and rebuke in everything you put your hand to, until you are destroyed and come to sudden ruin because of the evil you have done in forsaking him. The Lord will plague you with diseases until he has destroyed you from the land you are entering to possess. The Lord will strike you with wasting disease, with fever and inflammation, with scorching heat and drought, with blight and mildew, which will plague you until you perish. The sky over your head will be bronze, the ground beneath you iron. The Lord will turn the rain of your country into dust and powder. It will come down from the skies until you are destroyed. The Lord will cause you to be defeated before your enemies. You will come at them from one direction, but flee from them in seven, and you will become a thing of horror for all of your kingdoms of earth. Your carcasses will be food for all the birds and the wild animals, and there will be no one to frighten them away. The Lord will afflict you with the boils of Egypt and with tumors, festering sores and itches, from which you cannot be cured. The Lord will afflict you with madness, blindness, and confusion of mind. At midday you will grope about like a blind person in the dark. You will be unsuccessful in everything you do. Day after day you will be oppressed and robbed, with no one to rescue you. You will be plagued to be married. You will be pledged to be married to a woman, but another will take her and rape her. You will build a house, but you will not live in it. You will plant a vineyard, but will not even begin to enjoy its fruit. Your ox will be slaughtered before your eyes, but you will eat none of it. Your donkey will be forcibly taken from you and will not be returned. Your sheep will be given to your enemies, and no one will rescue them. Your sons and daughters will be given to the nation, and you will wear out your eyes watching for them day after day, powerless to lift a hand. A people that you do not know will eat what your land and labor produce, and you will have nothing but cruel oppression all your days. The sights you will see will drive you mad. The Lord will afflict your knees and legs with painful boils and cannot be cured, spreading from the soles of your feet to the top of your head. The Lord will drive you and the king you set you to your nation, unknown to you or to your ancestors. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and stone. You will become a thing of horror, a byword, and an object of ridicule among the people where the Lord will drive you. You will sow much seed in the field, but you will harvest little, because locusts will devour it. You will plant vineyards and cultivate them, but you will not drink the wine or gather the grapes, because worms will eat them. You have olive trees throughout your country, but you will not use the oil, because the olives will drop off. You will have sons and daughters, but you will not keep them, because they will go into captivity. Swarms of locusts will take over your trees and the crops of your lands. The foreigners who reside among you will rise above you higher and higher, but you will sink lower and lower. They will lend to you, but you will not lend to them. They will be the head, but you will be the tail. All these curses will come on you. They will pursue you and overtake you until you are destroyed, because you did not obey the Lord your God, and observe the commandments and decrees he gave you. They will be a sign and a wonder to you and your descendants forever, because you did not serve the Lord your God joyfully and gladly in the time of prosperity. Therefore, in hunger and in thirst and nakedness and in dire poverty, you will serve the enemies the Lord sends against you. He will put an iron yoke on your neck until he has destroyed you. The Lord will bring a nation against you from far away, from the ends of the earth, like an eagle swooping down, a nation whose language you will not understand, a fierce-looking nation without respect for the old or pity for the young. They will devour the young of your livestock and the crops of your land until you are destroyed. They will leave you no grain, new wine, or olive oil, nor any of your calves of your herds or lambs of your flock until you are ruined. They will lay siege to all of your cities throughout the land until the high fortified walls in which you trust fall down. They will besiege all of your cities throughout the land the Lord your God is giving you. Because of the suffering your enemies will inflict on you during the siege, you will eat the fruit of the womb, the flesh of the sons and the daughters the Lord your God has given you. Even the most gentle and sensitive man among you will have no compassion on his own brother or wife he loves, or surviving children, and he will not give to one of them any of the flesh of his children that he is eating. It will be all he has left, because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of all your cities. The most gentle and sensitive woman among you, so sensitive and gentle that she would not venture to touch the ground with the sole of her foot, will begrudge the husband she loves and her own son or daughter, the afterbirth from her womb and the children she bears. For in her dire need she intends to eat them secretly, because of the suffering your enemy will inflict on you during the siege of your cities. If you do not carefully follow all the words of this law, which are written in this book, and do not revere this glorious and awesome name, the Lord your God, the Lord will send fearful plagues on you and your descendants, harsh and prolonged disasters, and severe and lingering illnesses. He will bring on you all the diseases of Egypt that you dreaded, and they will cling to you. The Lord will also bring on you every kind of sickness and disaster not recorded in this book of the law, until you are destroyed. You who were as numerous as the stars in the sky will be left but few in number, because you did not obey the Lord your God. Just as it pleased the Lord to make you prosperous and to increase in numbers, so it will please him to ruin and destroy you. You will be uprooted from the land you are entering to possess. Then the Lord will scatter you among all nations, from one end to the earth to the other. There you will worship other gods, gods of wood and stone, which neither you nor your ancestors have known. Among those nations you will find no repose, no resting place for the sole of your foot. There the Lord will give you an anxious mind, eyes weary with longing, and a desperating heart. You will live in constant suspense, filled with dread, both night and day, never sure of your life. In the morning you will say, if only it were evening, and in the evening, if only it were morning, because of the terror that fill your hearts and the sights that your eyes will see. The Lord will send you back in ships to Egypt on a journey I said you should never make again. There you will offer yourselves for sale to your enemies as male and female slaves, but no one will buy you. Woo! He ain't playing. Renewal of the covenant. These are the terms of the covenant the Lord commanded Moses to make with the Israelites in Moab, in addition to the covenant he had made with them in Horeb. Moses summoned all the Israelites and said to them, your eyes have seen all that the Lord did in Egypt to Pharaoh, to all his officials, and to all his land. With your own eyes you saw those great trials, those signs and great wonders. But to this day the Lord has not given you a mind that understands, or eyes that see, or ears that hear. Yet the Lord says, during the 40 years that I led you through the wilderness, your clothes did not wear out, nor did the sandals on your feet. You ate no bread and drank no wine or other fermented drink. I did this so that you might know that I am the Lord your God. When you reach this place, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, came out to fight against you, but we defeated them. We took their land and gave it as an inheritance to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe Manasseh. Carefully follow the terms of this covenant so that you may prosper in everything you do. All of you who are standing today in the presence of the Lord your God, your leaders and chiefsmen, your elders and officials, and all the other men of Israel, together with your children and your wives and your foreigners living in your camps who chop your wood and carry your water, you are standing here in order to enter into a covenant with the Lord your God, a covenant the Lord is making with you to this day and sealing with an oath, to confirm you this day at his people, that he may be your God, and he promised you as he was sworn to your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. I am making this covenant with its oath, not only with you who are standing here with us today in the presence of the Lord our God, but also with those who are not here today. You yourselves know how we lived in Egypt, and how we passed through the countries in the way here. You saw among them their detestable images and idols of wood and stone, of silver and gold. Make sure there is no man or woman, clan or tribe among you today whose hearts turn away from the Lord our God to go and to worship the gods of those nations. Make sure there's no root among you that produces such bitter poison. When such a person hears the words of this oath and they invoke a blessing on themselves, thinking, I will be safe even though I persist on going my own way, they will bring disaster on the water land as well as the dry. The Lord will never be willing to forgive them. His wrath and zeal will burn against them. All the curses written in this book will fall on them, and the Lord will blot out their names from under heaven. The Lord will single them out from all the tribes of Israel for disaster, according to all the curses of the covenant written in the book of the law. Your children who follow you in later generations and foreigners who come from distant lands will see the calamities that have fallen on the Lord and the diseases with which the Lord has afflicted it. The whole land will be a burning waste of salt and sulfur, nothing planted, nothing sprouted, no vegetation growing on it. It will be like the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah, Adam and Zeboim, which the Lord overthrew in fierce anger. All the nations will ask, why has the Lord done this to this land? Why this fierce burning anger? And the answer will be, it is because this people abandoned the covenant of the Lord, the God of their ancestors, the covenant he made with them when he brought them out of Egypt. They went off and worshipped other gods and bowed down to them, gods they did not know, gods he had not given them. Therefore the Lord's anger burned against the land, so that he brought it on the curses written in this book. In furious anger and in great wrath the Lord uprooted them from their land and thrust them into another land as it is now. The secret things belong to the Lord our God, but the things revealed belong to us and to our children forever, that we may follow all the words of this law. All right. Prosperity after turning to the Lord. When all of these blessings and curses I've set before you come on you, and you take them to heart, wherever the Lord your God disperses you among the nations, and when you and your children return to the Lord your God and obey him with all your heart and with all your soul, according to everything I commanded you today, then the Lord your God will restore your fortunes. Thank God. and have compassion on you, and gather you again from all the nations where he scattered you. Even if you have been banished to the most distant land under the heavens, from there the Lord your God will gather you and bring you back. He will bring you to the land that belonged to your ancestors, and you will take possession of it. He will make you more prosperous and numerous than your ancestors. The Lord your God will circumcise your hearts and the hearts of your descendants, so that you may love him with all your heart and with all your soul and live. The Lord your God will put these curses on your enemies who hate and persecute you. You will again obey the Lord and follow all his commandments. I'm giving you today. Then the Lord your God will make you most prosperous in all your work of your hands and in the fruit of your womb, the younger of your livestock and the crops of your land. The Lord will again delight in you and make you prosperous, just as he delighted in your ancestors. If you obey the Lord your God and keep his commandments and decrees that are written in the book of the law, and turn the Lord your God with all of your heart and with all of your soul. Now, what I'm commanding you today is not too difficult for you or beyond your reach. It is not up to you. It is not up in heaven, so that you have to ask, who will ascend to heaven to get it and proclaim it to us so we may obey it? Nor is it beyond the sea, so that you have to ask, who will cross the sea to get it and proclaim it to us so we may obey it? No, the word is very near. The word is very near you. It is in your mouth and is in your heart, so you may obey it. See, I set before you today life and prosperity, death and destruction. For I command you today to love the Lord your God, to walk in obedience with him, and to keep his commandments, decrees, and laws. Then you will live and increase, and your Lord your God will bless you in the land you are entering to possess. But if your heart turns away and you are not obedient, and if you are drawn away to bow down to others, God, and worship them, I declare to you this day that you will certainly be destroyed. You will not live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to enter and possess. This day I call the heavens and the earth as witnesses against you that I have set before you life and death, blessing and curses. Now choose life, so that you and your children may live, and that you may love the Lord your God. Listen to his voice and hold fast to him, for the Lord is your life, and he will give you many years in the land he swore to give your fathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob.
Tagging you out, bro.
All right. That ended good.
Yes, it did. Chapter 31. Then Moses went out, and he spoke these words to all Israel. I am now 120 years old, and I am no longer able to lead you. The Lord has said to me, you shall not cross the Jordan. The Lord your God himself will cross over ahead of you. He will destroy these nations before you, and you would take possession of their land. Joshua also will cross over ahead of you, as the Lord said. And the Lord will do to them what he did to Sihon and Og, the kings of the Amorites, whom he destroyed along with their land. The Lord will deliver them to you, and you must do to them all that I have commanded you. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them, for the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Then Moses summoned Joshua and said to him in the presence of all Israel, be strong and courageous, for you must go with this people into the land that the Lord swore to his ancestors to give them, and you must divide it among them as their inheritance. The Lord himself goes before you and will be with you. You will never leave you nor forsake you. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. So Moses wrote down this law, and he gave it to the Levitical priest who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord, and to all the elders of Israel. And then Moses commanded them at the end of every 7 years, in the year for canceling debts, during the festival of tabernacles, when all Israel comes to appear before the Lord your God at the place he will choose, you shall read this law before them in their hearing. Assemble the people, men, women, and children, and the foreigners reside in your towns, so that they may listen and learn to fear the Lord your God and to follow carefully all the words of this law. Their children who do not know this law must hear it and learn to fear the Lord your God as long as you live in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. And the Lord said to Moses, now the day of your death is near. Call Joshua and present yourselves at the tent of meeting where I will commission him. So Moses and Joshua came and presented themselves at the tent of meeting. Then the Lord appeared at the tent in a pillar of cloud, and the cloud stood over the entrance to the tent. And the Lord said to Moses, you are going to rest with your ancestors, and these people will soon prostitute themselves to the foreign gods of the land they are entering. They will forsake me and break the covenant I made with them. And in that day I will become angry with them and forsake them. I will hide my face from them, and they will be destroyed. Many disasters and calamities will come on them, and in that day they will ask, oh, have not these disasters come on us because our God is not with us? And I will certainly hide my face in that day because of all their wickedness and turning to other gods. Now, write down this song and teach it to the Israelites and have them sing it so it may be a witness for me against them. When I have brought them into the land flowing with milk and honey, the land I promised an oath to their ancestors, and when they eat their fill and thrive, they will turn to other gods and worship them, rejecting me and breaking my covenant. And when many disasters and calamities come on them, this song will testify against them because it will not be forgotten by their descendants. I know what they are disposed to do. Even before I bring them into the land, I promised them an oath. So Moses wrote down this song that day and taught it to the Israelites. The Lord gave this command to Joshua, son of Nun. You be strong and courageous, for you will bring the Israelites into the land I promised them an oath. And I myself will be with you. And after Moses finished writing in a book the words of this law from beginning to end, he gave this command to the Levites who carried the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord. Take this book of the law and place it beside the Ark of the Covenant of the Lord your God. There it will remain as a witness against you, for I know how rebellious and stiff-necked you are. If you have been rebellious against the Lord while I am still alive and with you, how much more will you rebel after I die? Assemble before me all the elders of your tribes or your officials, so that I can speak these words in their hearing and call the heavens and the earth to testify against them. For I know that after my death, you are sure to become utterly corrupt and to turn from the way I've commanded you. In the days to come, disaster will fall on you because you will do evil in the sight of the Lord and arouse his anger by what your hands have made. And Moses recited the words of this song from the beginning to end in the hearing of the whole assembly of Israel. Chapter 32. Listen, you heavens, and I will speak. Hear, you earth, the words of my mouth. Let my teaching fall like rain, and my words descend like dew, like showers on new grass, like abundant rain on tender plants. I will proclaim the name of the Lord. Oh, praise the greatness of our God. He is the rock. His works are perfect, and his ways are just. A faithful God who does no wrong, upright and just is he. They are corrupt and not his children. To their shame, they are warped and crooked generation. Is this the way you repay the Lord, you foolish and unwise people? Is he not your father, your creator, who made you and formed you? Oh, remember the days of old. Consider the generations long past. Ask your father, and he will tell you. Your elders, and they will explain to you. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he divided all mankind, he set up boundaries for the peoples, according to the number of sons of Israel. For the Lord's portion is his people, Jacob, his allotted inheritance. In the desert land he found him, in a barren and howling waste. He shielded him and cared for him. He guarded him as the apple of his eye, like an eagle that stirs up its nest and hovers over its young, that spreads out its wings to catch them and carries them aloft. The Lord alone led, no foreign God was with him. He made him ride on the heights of the land and fed him with the fruit of the fields. He nourished him with honey from the rock and with oil from the flinty crag, with curds and milk from the herd and flock, and with fattened lambs and goats, with choice rams of Bashan and the finest kernels of wheat. You drank the foaming blood of the grape. Jeshurun grew fat and kicked, filled with food. They became heavy and sleek. They abandoned the God who made them and rejected the rock, their Savior. They made him jealous with their foreign gods and angered him with their detestable idols. They sacrificed to false gods, which are not God, gods they had not known, gods that recently appeared, gods your ancestors did not fear. You deserted the rock who followed you. You forgot the God who gave you birth. The Lord saw this and rejected them because he was angered by his sons and daughters. I will hide my face from them, he said, and see what their end will be, for they are a perverse generation, children who are unfaithful. They made me jealous by what is no God, and angered me with their worthless idols. I will make them envious by those who are not my people. I will make them angry by a nation that has no understanding. For a fire will be kindled by my wrath, one that burns down to the realm of the dead below. It will devour the earth and its harvest, and set afire the foundations of the mountains. I will heap calamities on them, and spend my arrows against them. I will send wasting famine against them, consuming pestilence and deadly plague. I will send against them the fangs of wild beasts, and the venom of vipers that glide in the dust. In the street the sword will make them childless. In their homes terror will reign. The young men and the young women will perish. The infants and those with gray hair. I said I would scatter them and erase their name for human memory. But I dreaded the taunt of the enemy. Let the adversary misunderstand and say, our hand has triumphed and the Lord has done all this. They are nations without sense. There is no discernment in them. If only they were wise and would understand this and discern what their end will be. How could one man chase 1,000 or put 10,000 to flight unless their rock had sold them, unless the Lord had given them up? For the rock is not like our rock, as even our enemies concede. Their vine comes from the vine of Sodom and from the fields of Gomorrah. Their grapes are filled with poison, and their clusters with bitterness. Their wine is the venom of serpents and the deadly poison of cobras. Have I not kept this in reserve and sealed it in my vaults? It is mine to avenge. I will repay. In due time their foot will slip. Their day of disaster is near, and their doom rushes upon them. The Lord will vindicate his people and relent concerning his servants when he sees their strength is gone and no one is left, slave or free. And he will say, now where are their gods, the rock they took refuge in, the gods who ate the fat of their sacrifices and drank the wine of their drink offerings? Let them rise up to help you. Let them give you shelter. See now that I myself am he. There is no God beside me. I put to death and I bring to life. I have wounded and I will heal, and no one can deliver out of my hand. I lift my hand in heaven and solemnly swear, as surely as I live forever, when I sharpen my flashing sword and my hand grasp it in the judgment, I will take vengeance on my adversaries and repay those who hate me. I will make my arrows drunk with blood, while my sword devours flesh, and the blood of the slain and the captives and the heads of the enemy leaders. Rejoice, you nations, with this people, for he will avenge the blood of his servants. He will take vengeance on his enemies, and will make atonement for his land and people. Moses came with Joshua, son of Nun, and spoke all the words of this song in the hearing of the people. And when Moses finished reciting all these words to all Israel, he said to them, take to heart all the words I have solemnly declared to you this day, so that you may command your children to obey carefully all the words of this law. They are not just idle words for you. They are your life. By them you will live long in the land you are crossing the Jordan to possess. On that same day, the Lord told Moses, he said, go up into the Abraham range into Mount Nebo in Moab, across from Jericho, and view Canaan, the land I am giving the Israelites as their own possession. There, on the mountain that you have climbed, you will die and be gathered to your people, just as your brother Aaron died on Mount Hor as he was gathered to his people. This is because both of you broke faith with me in the presence of the Israelites at the waters of Meribah Kadesh in the desert of Zin, and because you did not uphold my holiness among the Israelites. Therefore, you will see the land only from a distance. You will not enter the land I am giving to the people of Israel. Chapter 33. This is the blessing that Moses, the man of God, pronounced on the Israelites before his death. He said, the Lord came from Sinai, and dawned over them from Seir, and shone forth from Mount Paran. He came with myriads of holy ones from the south, from his mountain slopes. Surely it is you who love the people. All the holy ones are in your hand. At your feet they all bow down, and from you receive instruction. The law that Moses gave us, the possession of the assembly of Jacob. He was king of Gershon when the leaders of the people assembled, along with the tribes of Israel. Let Reuben live and not die, nor his people be few. And this he said about Judah. Oh, hear, Lord, the cry of Judah. Bring him to his people. With his own hands he defends his cause. Oh, be his help against his foes. And about Levi he said, your Thummim and Urim belong to your faithful servant. You tested him at Massah. You contend with him at the waters of Meribah. He said to his father and mother, I have no regard for them. He did not recognize his brothers or acknowledge his own children, but he watched over your word and guided your covenant. He teaches your precepts to Jacob and your law to Israel. He offers incense before you and whole burnt offerings on your altar. Bless all his skills, Lord, and be pleased with the work of his hands. Strike down those who rise up against him, his foes, till they rise no more. About Benjamin, he said, oh, let the beloved of the Lord rest secure in him, for he shields him all day long. and the ones the Lord loves rest between his shoulders. And about Joseph, he said, oh, may the Lord bless his land with the precious dew from heaven above and with the deep waters that lie below, with the best the sun brings forth and the finest the moon can yield, with the choicest gifts of the ancient mountains and the fruitfulness of the everlasting hills, with the best gifts of the earth and its fullness, and the favor of him who dwelt in the burning bush. Let all these rest on the head of Joseph, on the brow of the prince among his brothers. In majesty he is like a firstborn bull. His horns are the horns of a wild ox. With him he will gore the nations, even those at the ends of the earth. Such are 10,000s of Ephraim. Such are the thousands of Manasseh. About Zebulun, he said, rejoice, Zebulun, in your going out, and you, Ishkar, in your tents. They will summon people to the mountain, and there are sacrifices of the righteous. They will feast on the abundance of the seas, on the treasures hidden in the sand. And about Gad, he said, blessed is he who enlarges Gad's domain. Gad lives there like a lion, tearing at the arm or head. He chose the best land for himself. The leader's portion was kept for him. When the herds of the people assembled, he carried out the Lord's righteous will and his judgments concerning Israel. And about Dan, he said, Dan is a lion's cub, springing out of Bashan. About Naphtali, he said, Naphtali is abounding with the favor of the Lord and is full of his blessing. He will inherit southward to the lake. And about Asher, he said, oh, most blessed of sons is Asher. Let him be favored by his brothers, and let us bathe his feet in oil. The bolts of your gates will be iron and bronze, and your strength will equal your days. There is no one like the God of Jeshurun, who rides across the heavens to help you, and on the clouds of his majesty. The eternal God is your refuge, and underneath are the everlasting arms. He will drive out your enemies before you, saying, destroy them. So Israel will live in safety. Jacob will dwell secure in the land of the grain and new wine, where the heavens drop dew. Blessed are you, Israel. Who is like you? A people saved by the Lord. He is your shield and helper, and your glorious sword. Your enemies will cower before you, and you will tread on their heights. Chapter 34. Then Moses climbed Mount Nebo from the plains of Moab to the top of Pisgah across from Jericho, and there the Lord showed him the whole land from Gilead to Dan, and all of Naphtali, the territory of Ephraim and Manasseh, and all the land of Judah as far as the Mediterranean Sea, the Negev, and the whole region of the valley of Jericho, the city of palms, and as far as Zoar. Then the Lord said to him, this is the land I promised an oath to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob when I said, I will give it to your descendants. I have let you see it with your eyes, but you will not cross over into it. And Moses, the servant of the Lord, died there in Moab, as the Lord had said. He buried him in Moab, in the valley opposite Beth Peor. But to this day, no one knows where his grave is. Moses was 120 years old when he died. Yet his eyes were not weak, nor his strength gone. The Israelites grieved for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days, and then until the time of weeping and mourning was over. Now Joshua, son of Nun, was filled with the spirit of wisdom because Moses had laid hands on him. So the Israelites listened to him and did what the Lord had commanded Moses. Since then, no prophet has risen in Israel like Moses, whom the Lord knew face to face, who did all those signs and wonders the Lord sent him to do in Egypt, to Pharaoh and to all his officials, and to his whole land. For no one has ever shown the mighty power or performed the awesome deeds that Moses did in the sight of Israel. Wow! That's powerful stuff there, my brothers and sisters. Hey, Jim, how you doing?
All right. Are we starting Joshua, you said?
Joshua 1.
All right. I get to kick it off. All right. Joshua 1. Joshua installed as leader. After the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord said to Joshua, son of Nun, Moses' aide, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now then, you, all these people, get ready to cross the Jordan River into the land I am about to give to them, to the Israelites. I will give you every place where you set your foot, as I promised Moses. Your territory will extend from the desert to Lebanon, all from the great river and Euphrates, all the Hittite country, to the Mediterranean Sea in the west. No one will be able to stand against you all the days of your life. As I was with Moses, so I will be with you. I will never leave you nor forsake you. Be strong and courageous, because you will lead these people to inherit the land I swore to their ancestors to give them. Be strong and very courageous. Be careful to obey all the law my servant Moses gave to you. Do not turn from it to the right or to the left, that you may be successful wherever you go. Keep this book of the law always on your lips. Meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do everything written in it. Then you will be prosperous and successful. Have I not commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. For the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. So Joshua ordered the officers of the people, go through the camp and tell the people, get your provisions ready. 3 days from now, you will cross the Jordan here to go in and take possession of the land the Lord your God is giving you for your own. But to the Reubenites, the Gadites, and half the tribe of Manasseh, Joshua said, remember the commandment that Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you after he said, the Lord your God will give you rest by giving you this land. Your wives, your children, and your livestock may stay in the land that Moses gave you east of the Jordan. But all you fighting men ready for battle must cross over ahead of your fellow Israelites. You are to help them until the Lord gives them rest, as he has done for you, and until they too have taken possession of the land the Lord your God is giving them. After that, you may go back and occupy your own land, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you, east of the Jordan toward the sunset. Then they answered Joshua, whatever you have commanded us we will do, and whatever you send we will go. Just as we fully obeyed Moses, so we will obey you. Only may the Lord your God be with you as he was with Moses. Whoever rebels against your word and does not obey it, whatever you may command them, will be put to death. Only be strong and courageous. Joshua 2. Rahab and the spies. Then Joshua, son of Nun, secretly sent 2 spies from Shittim. Go, look over the land, he said, especially Jericho. So they went and entered the house of a prostitute named Rahab and stayed there. The king of Jericho was told, look, some of the Israelites have come here tonight to spy out the land. So the king of Jericho sent this message to Rahab, bring out the men who came to you and entered your house, because they have come to spy out the whole land. But the women had taken the 2 men and hidden them. She said, yes, the men came to me, but I did not know where they had come from. At dusk, when it was time to close the city gate, they left. I don't know which way they went. Go after them quickly. You may catch up with them. But she had taken them up to the roof and hidden them under the stalks of flax she had laid out on the roof. So the men set out in pursuit of the spies on the road that leads to the fords of the Jordan. And as soon as the pursuers had gone out, the gate was shut. But before the spies lay down for the night, she went up on the roof and said to them, I know that the Lord has given you this land, and that a great fear of you has fallen on us, so that all who live in this country are melting in fear because of you. We have heard now the Lord dried up the water on the Red Sea for you when you came out of Egypt, and what you did to Sihon and Og, the 2 kings of Amorites east of Jordan, whom you completely destroyed. When we heard of it, our hearts melted in fear, and everyone's courage failed because of you. For the Lord your God is God in heaven above and on the earth below. Now then, please swear to me by the Lord that you will show kindness to my family, because I have shown kindness to you. Give me a sure sign that you will spare the lives of my father and mother, my brothers and sisters, and to all who belong to them, and that you will save us from death. Our lives for your lives, the men assured her. If you don't tell what we're doing, we will treat you kindly and faithfully when the Lord gives us the land. So she sent them down by a rope through the window, for the house she lived in was part of the city wall. She said to them, Go to the hills, so the pursuers will not find you. Hide yourselves there 3 days until they return, and then go on your way. Now the men had said to her, This oath you made us swear will not be binding on us, unless when we enter the land you have tied this scarlet cord in the window, the which has let us down, and unless you have brought your father and mother, your brothers, and your family into your house. If any of them go outside your house in the street, their blood will be on their own heads. We will not be responsible. As for those who are in the house with you, their blood will be on our head, and if a hand is laid on them. But if you tell what we are doing, we will be released from the oath you made us swear. Agreed, she replied. Let it be as you say. So she sent them away, and they departed, as she tied the scarlet cord in the window. When they left, they went into the hills and stayed there 3 days, until the pursuers had searched all along the road and returned without finding them. Then the 2 men started back. They went down out of the hills, forded the river, and came to Joshua son of Nun, and told him everything that had happened to them. They said to Joshua, The Lord has surely given the whole land into our hands. All the people are melting in fear because of us. Joshua 3. Early in the morning, Joshua and all the Israelites sent out from Shittim and went to the Jordan, where they camped before crossing over. After 3 days, the officers went throughout the camp, giving orders to the people. When you see the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God and the Levitical priests carrying it, you are to move out from the positions and follow it. Then you will know which way to go, since you have never been this way before. But keep a distance of about 2,000 cubits between you and the ark. Do not go near it. Joshua told the people, Concentrate yourselves, for tomorrow the Lord will do amazing things among you. Joshua said to the priests, Take up the ark of the covenant and pass on ahead of the people. So they took it up and went ahead of them. And the Lord said to Joshua, Today I will begin to exalt you in the eyes of all Israel, so they may know that I am with you as I was with Moses. Tell the priests who carry the ark of the covenant, when you reach the edge of Jordan waters, go and stand in the river. Joshua said to the Israelites, Come here and listen to the words of the Lord your God. This is how you will know that the living God is among you, and that he will certainly drive out before you all the Canaanites, Hittites, Hivites, Perizzites, Girgashites, Amorites, and Jebusites. See, the ark of the covenant of the Lord of all of the earth will go into the Jordan ahead of you. Now then, choose 12 men from the tribes of Israel, 1 of each tribe, And as soon as the priests who carry the ark of the Lord of all the earth, set foot in Jordan, its waters flowing downstream will be cut off and stand up in a heap. So when the people broke camp to cross the Jordan, the priests carrying the ark of the covenant went ahead of them. Now the Jordan is at flood stage all during harvest. Yet as soon as the priests who carrying the ark reached the Jordan and their feet touched the water's edge, the water from upstream stopped flowing. It is piled up in a heap a great distance away at a town called Adam, in the vicinity of Zarethan. While the water flowing down the sea of the Abram, that is the Dead Sea, was completely cut off. So the people crossed over opposite Jericho. The priests who carried the ark of the covenant of the Lord stopped in the middle of the Jordan and stood on dry ground, while all the Israelites passed by until the whole nation had completed the crossing on dry ground. Joshua 4. When the whole nation had finished crossing the Jordan, the Lord said to Joshua, "Choose 12 men from among the people, one from each tribe, and tell them to take up 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, from right where the priests are standing, and carry them over with you, and put them down on the place where you stay tonight." So Joshua called together the 12 men he had appointed from the Israelites, one from each tribe, and said to them, "Go over before the ark of the Lord your God into the middle of the Jordan. Each of you is to take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, to serve a sign among you. In the future, when your children ask you, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them that the flow of the Jordan was cut off before the ark of the covenant of the Lord. When it crossed the Jordan, the waters of the Jordan were cut off. These stones are to be memorial to the people of Israel forever." So the Israelites did as Joshua commanded them. They took 12 stones from the middle of the Jordan, according to the number of tribes of the Israelites, as the Lord had told Joshua, and they carried them over with them to their camp. When they put them down, Joshua set up the 12 stones that had been in the middle of the Jordan, in the spot where the priests who carried the ark of the covenant had stood, and they are there to this day. Now the priests who carried the ark remained standing in the middle of the Jordan until everything the Lord had commanded Joshua was done by the people, just as Moses had directed Joshua. The people hurried over, and as soon as all of them had crossed, the ark of the Lord and the priests came to the other side while the people watched. The men of Reuben, Gad, and half-tribe of Manasseh crossed over ready for battle in front of the Israelites, as Moses had directed them. About 40,000 armed for battle crossed over before the Lord to the plains of Jericho for war. The day the Lord exalted Joshua in the sight of all Israelites, and they stood in awe of him all the days of his life, just as they had stood in awe of Moses. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Command the priests carrying the ark of the covenant law to come up out of the Jordan." So Joshua commanded the priests, "Come up out of the Jordan," and the priests came up out of the river, carrying the ark of the covenant of the Lord. No sooner had they set their feet on dry ground than the water of the Jordan returned to their place and ran at flood stage as before. On the 10th day of the first month, the people went up to the Jordan and camped at Gilgal, on the eastern border of Jericho. And Joshua set up at Gilgal the 12 stones they had taken out of the Jordan. He said to the Israelites, "In the future, when your descendants ask their parents, 'What do these stones mean?' tell them, 'Israel crossed the Jordan on dry ground. For the Lord your God dried up the Jordan before it until you had crossed over. The Lord your God did to the Jordan what they had done to the Red Sea, when he dried it up before us until he had crossed over. He did this so that the people on the earth might know that the hand of the Lord is powerful, and so that you might always fear the Lord your God." Joshua 5. Now when all the Amorite kings west of the Jordan and all the Canaanite kings along the coast heard how the Lord had dried up the Jordan before the Israelites until they had crossed over, their hearts melted in fear. They no longer had the courage to face the Israelites. circumcision and Passover at Gilgal. At the time the Lord said to Joshua, "Make flint knives and circumcise the Israelites again." So Joshua made flint knives and circumcised the Israelites at Gibeath Haaraloth. Now this is why he did so. All those who came out of Egypt, all the men of military age, died in the wilderness on the way after leaving Egypt. All the people that came out had been circumcised, but all the people born in the wilderness during the journey from Egypt had not. The Israelites had moved about in the wilderness 40 years until all the men who were of military age when they left Egypt had died, since they had not obeyed the Lord. For the Lord had sworn to them that they would not see the land he had solemnly promised their ancestors to give us, a land flowing with milk and honey. So he raised up their sons in their place, and these were the ones Joshua circumcised. They were still uncircumcised because they had been circumcised on the way. And after the whole nation had been circumcised, they remained where they were in camp until they were healed. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "Today I have rolled away the reproach of Egypt from you." So the place has been called Gilgal to this day. On the evening of the 14th day of the month, while camped at Gilgal on the plains of Jericho, the Israelites celebrated the Passover. The day after the Passover, that very day they ate some of the produce of the land, unleavened bread and roasted grain. The manna stopped the day after. They ate this food from the land. There was no longer any manna for the Israelites. But that year they ate the produce from Canaan. The fall of Jericho. Now when Joshua was near Jericho, he looked up and saw a man standing in front of him with a drawn sword in his hand. Joshua went up to him and asked, "Are you for us or are you for our enemies?" "Neither," he replied, "but as commander of the army of the Lord, I have now come." Then Joshua fell face down on the ground in reverence and asked him, "What message does my Lord have for his servant?" The commander for the Lord's army replied, "Take off your sandals, for the place where you are standing is holy." And Joshua did so. Now the gates of Jericho were securely barred because of Israelites. No one went out and no one came in. Then the Lord said to Joshua, "See, I have delivered Jericho into your hands, along with its kings and its fighting men. March around the city once with all of the armed men. Do this for 6 days. Have 7 priests carry trumpets of ram horns in front of the ark. On the 7th day, march around the city 7 times, with the priests blowing the trumpets. When you hear them sound a long blast on the trumpet, have the whole army give a loud shout. Then the wall of the city will collapse and the army will go up, everyone straight in." So Joshua, son of Nun, called the priests and said to them, "Take up the ark of the covenant of the Lord, and have 7 priests carry trumpets in front of it." And he ordered the army, "Advance, march around the city with an army guard going ahead of the ark of the Lord." When Joshua had spoke to the people, the 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets before the Lord went forward blowing their trumpets, and the ark of the Lord's covenant followed them. The armed guard marched ahead of the priest who blew the trumpets, and the rear guard following the ark. All this time the trumpets were sounding, but Joshua had commanded the army, "Do not give a war cry, do not raise your voices, do not say a word until the day I tell you to shout, then shout." So he had the ark of the Lord carried around the city, circling it once. Then the army returned to camp and spent the night there. Joshua got up early the next morning, and the priests took up the ark of the Lord. The 7 priests carrying the 7 trumpets went forward, marching before the ark of the Lord and blowing the trumpets. The armed men went ahead of them, and the rear guard followed the ark of the Lord, while the trumpets kept sounding. So on the second day, excuse me. So it's getting bedtime here soon. So on the second day, they marched around the city once and returned to the camp. They did this for 6 days. On the 7th day, they got up at daybreak and marched around the city 7 times in the same manner. except that on that day they circled the city 7 times. The 7th time around, when the priests sounded the trumpet blast, Joshua commanded the army, "Shout! For the Lord had given you this city. The city and that is it are to be devout to the Lord. Only Rahab, the prostitute, and all who are with her in the house shall be spared, because she hid the spies we sent. But keep away from the devout things, so that you will not bring about your own destruction by taking any of them. Otherwise you will make the camp of Israel liable to destruction and bring trouble on it. All the silver and gold of the articles of bronze and iron are sacred to the Lord and must go into his treasury." When the trumpet sounded, the army shouted, and the sound of the trumpet. When the men gave a loud shout, the wall collapsed, so everyone charged straight in, and they took the city. They devoted the city to the Lord and destroyed with the sword every living thing in it, men and women, young and old, cattle, sheep, and donkeys. Joshua said to the 2 men who had spied out to the land, "Go into the prostitute's house and bring her out, all who belong to her, in accordance with your oath to her." So the young men who had done the spying went in and brought out Rahab, her father, mother, her brothers and sisters, and all who belonged to her. They brought out their entire family and put them in a place outside the camp of Israel. Then they burned the whole city and everything in it, but they put the silver and gold and the articles of bronze and iron into the treasury of the Lord's house. But Joshua spared Rahab the prostitute with her family and all who belonged to her, because she hid the men whom Joshua sent spies to Jericho. And she lived among the Israelites to this day. At this time Joshua pronounced the solemn oath, "Cursed before the Lord is the one who undertakes to rebuild this city Jericho. At the cost of his firstborn son he will lay its foundations, and the cost of his youngest he will set up his gates." So the Lord was with Joshua, and his fame spread throughout the land.
Sweet. Good job, bro. Tagging you out.
2 down.
Chapter 7. But the Israelites were unfaithful in regard to the devoted things. Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribes of Judah, took some of them, so the Lord's anger burned against Israel. Now Joshua sent men from Jericho to Ai, which is near Beth-aven, to the east of Bethel, and told them, "Go up and spy out the region." So the men went up and they spied out Ai. And when they returned to Joshua, they said, "Not all the army we will have to go against Ai. Send 2,000 or 3,000 men to take it, and do not worry the whole army, for only a few people live there." So about 3,000 went up, but they were routed by the men of Ai, who killed about 36 of them. They chased the Israelites from the city gate as far as the stone quarries and struck them down on the slopes. At this, the hearts of the people melted in fear and became like water. Then Joshua tore his clothes and fell face down to the ground before the ark of the Lord, remaining there till evening. And the elders of Israel did the same and sprinkled dust on their heads. And Joshua said, "Oh, at last, sovereign Lord, why did you ever bring this people across the Jordan to deliver us into the hands of the Amorites to destroy us? If only we had been content to stay on the other side of the Jordan. Oh, pardon your servant, Lord. What can I say now that Israel has been routed by its enemies? The Canaanites and all the other people of the country will hear about this, and they will surround us and wipe out our name from the earth. Oh, what then will you do for your own great name?" And the Lord said to Joshua, "Stand up. What are you doing down your face? Israel has sinned. They have violated my covenant, which I commanded them to keep. They have taken some of the devoted things, they have stolen, they have lied, they have put them with their own possessions. That is why the Israelites cannot stand against their enemies. They turn their backs and run because they have made liable to destruction. I will not be with you anymore unless you destroy whatever among you is devoted to destruction. Go. Consecrate the people. Tell them, consecrate yourselves in preparation for tomorrow. For this is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. There are devoted things among you, Israel. You cannot stand against your enemies until you remove them. In the morning, present yourselves tribe by tribe. The tribe the Lord chooses shall come forward, and clan by clan. And the clan of the Lord chooses shall come forward, family by family. And the family the Lord chooses shall come forward, man by man. And whoever is caught with the devoted things shall be destroyed by fire, along with all that belongs to him. He has violated the covenant of the Lord and has done an outrageous thing in Israel. And early the next morning, Joshua had Israel come forward by tribes, and Judah was chosen. The clans of Judah came forward, and the Zerahs were chosen. And then the clan of the Zerahs come forward by families, and Zimri was chosen. Joshua and his family came forward man by man, and Achan, son of Carmi, the son of Zimri, the son of Zerah, of the tribe of Judah, was chosen. And then Joshua said to Achan, my son, give glory to the Lord, the God of Israel, and honor him. Tell me what you have done. Do not hide it from me. Achan replied, it is true. I have sinned against the Lord, the God of Israel. That is what I have done. When I saw in the plunder a beautiful robe from Babylonia, 200 shekels of silver, and a bar of gold weighing 50 shekels, I coveted them and I took them. They are hidden in the ground inside my tent with the silver underneath. So Joshua sent messengers, and they ran to the tent, and there it was, hidden in his tent with the silver underneath. And they took the things from the tent, and they brought them to Joshua. All the Israelites spread them out before the Lord. Then Joshua, together with all Israel, took Achan, son of Zerah, the silver, the robe, the gold bar, his sons, his daughter, his cattle, donkeys, and sheep, his tent, and all that they had to the valley of Achor. And Joshua said, why have you brought this trouble on us? The Lord will bring troubles on you today. And then all Israel stoned him. And after they had stoned the rest, they burned them. And over Achan they heaped up a large pile of rocks, which remains to this day. And then the Lord turned from his fierce anger. Therefore that place has been called the Valley of Achor ever since. Chapter 8. Then the Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid. Do not be discouraged. Take the whole army with you and go up and attack Ai. For I have delivered into your hands the king of Ai, his people, his city, and his land. You shall do to Ai and his king as you did to Jericho and its king. Except you may carry off their plunder and livestock for yourselves. Set an ambush behind the city. So Joshua and the whole army moved out to attack Ai. And he chose 30,000 of his best fighting men and sent them out at night with these orders. Listen carefully. You are to set an ambush behind the city. Don't go very far from it. All of you be on the alert. I and all those with me will advance on the city, and when the men come out against us, as they did before, we will flee from them. They will pursue us until we have lured them away from the city, for they will say, they are running away from us as they did before. So when we flee from them, you are to rise up from ambush and take the city. The Lord your God will give it into your hand. And when you have taken the city, set fire to it. Do what the Lord has commanded. See to it, you have my orders. Then Joshua sent them off, and they went to the place of ambush and lay in wait between Bethel and Ai to the west of Ai. But Joshua spent that night with the people. Early the next morning, Joshua mustered his army, and he and the leaders of Israel marched before them to Ai. And the entire force that was with him marched up and approached the city and arrived in front of it. And they set up camp north of Ai, with the valley between them and the city. And Joshua had taken about 5,000 men and set them in ambush between Bethel and Ai, to the west of the city. So the soldiers took up their positions with the main camp to the north and the city and the ambush to the west of it. That night, Joshua went into the valley. And when the king of Ai saw this, he and all the men in the city hurried out early in the morning to meet Israel in battle at a certain place overlooking the Arabah. But he did not know that an ambush had been set against him behind the city. And Joshua and all Israel let themselves be driven back before them, and they fled toward the wilderness, and all the men of Ai were called to pursue them, and they pursued Joshua and were lured away from the city. And not a man remained in Ai or Bethel who did not go after Israel. They left the city open and went in pursuit of Israel. Now the Lord said to Joshua, "Hold out toward Ai the javelin that is in your hand, for into your hand I will deliver the city." So Joshua held out to the city, toward the city, the javelin that was in his hand, and as soon as he did this, the men in the ambush rose quickly from their position, and they rushed forward, and they entered the city, and they captured it, and quickly set it on fire. And the men of Ai looked back and saw the smoke of the city rising up in the sky, but they had no chance to escape in any direction. The Israelites, who had been fleeing toward the wilderness, had turned back against their pursuers. And for when Joshua and all the Israel saw that the ambush had taken the city and that smoke was going up from it, they turned around and attacked the men of Ai. And those in the ambush who came out of the city against them, so that they were caught in the middle with the Israelites on both sides, and Israel cut them down, leaving them neither survivors nor fugitives. But they took the king of Ai alive and brought him to Joshua. And when Israel had finished killing all the men of Ai in the field and in the wilderness where they had chased them, and when every one of them had been put to the sword, all the Israelites returned to Ai and killed those who were in it. 12,000 men and women fell that day, all the people of Ai. For Joshua did not draw back the hand that held out his javelin until he had destroyed all who lived in Ai. But Israel did not carry off for themselves the livestock and plunder of this city as the Lord had instructed them. Oh, but they did carry it off. So Joshua burned Ai and made it a permanent heap of ruins, a desolate place to this day. He impaled the body of the king of Ai on a pole and left it there until evening. And at sunset, Joshua ordered them to take the body from the pole and throw it down at the entrance of the city gate. And there raised a large pile of rocks over it, which remains to this day. And then Joshua built on Mount Ebal an altar to the Lord, the God of Israel, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had commanded the Israelites. He built it in accordance to what is written in the book of the law of Moses, an altar of uncut stones on which no iron tool had been used. On it they offered to the Lord burnt offerings and sacrifices, fellowship offerings. There in the presence of the Israelites, Joshua wrote on stones a copy of the law of Moses. And all the Israelites with their elders and officials and judges were standing on both sides of the ark of the covenant of the Lord, facing the Levitical priests who carried it. And both the foreigners living among them and the native born were there, and half the people stood in front of the Mount Gershom, and half of them in front of Mount Ebal, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had formerly commanded when he gave instruction to bless the people of Israel. And afterward, Joshua read all the words of the law, the blessings and the curses, just as it is written in the book of the law. There was not a word of all that Moses had commanded that Joshua did not read to the whole assembly of Israel, including the women and the children and the foreigners who lived among them. Chapter 9. Now when all the kings west of the Jordan heard about these things, the kings in the hill country, in the western foothills, and along the entire coast of the Mediterranean Sea, as far as Lebanon, the kings of the Hittites, the Amorites, the Canaanites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites, they came together to wage war against Joshua and Israel. However, when the people of Gibeon heard that Joshua had done what he had done to Jericho and Ai, they resorted to a ruse. They went as a delegation whose donkeys were loaded with worn-out sacks and old wineskins cracked and mended, and they put worn and patched sandals on their feet and wore old clothes. And all the bread of the food supply was dry and moldy. And then they went to Joshua in the camp of Gilgal and said to him and the Israelites, "We have come from a distant country. Make a treaty with us." And the Israelites said to the Hivites, "But perhaps you live near us, so how can we make a treaty with you?" "We are your servants," they said to Joshua. But Joshua asked, "Who are you? Where do you come from?" And they answered, "Your servants have come from a very distant country because of the fame of the Lord your God. For we have heard reports of him, all that he did in Egypt, and all that he did to the two kings of the Amorites east of the Jordan, Sihon, king of Heshbon, and Og, king of Bashan, who reigned in Ashtaroth. And the elders and all those living in the country said to us, 'Take provisions for your journey. Go and meet them and say to them, we are your servants. Make a treaty with us. This bread was ours was warm when we packed it at home on the day we left to come to you. But now see how dry and moldy it is. And those wineskins that we filled were new, but see how cracked they are. And our clothes and our sandals are worn out by the very long journey.' The Israelites, they sampled their provisions, but did not inquire of the Lord. And then Joshua made a treaty of peace with them to let them live, and the leaders of the assembly ratified it by an oath. 3 days after they made the treaty with the Gibeonites, the Israelites heard that they were neighbors living near them. So the Israelites set out, and on the third day they came to their cities, Gibeon, Kipriath, Beeroth, and Kiriath Jearim. But the Israelites did not attack them because the leaders of the assembly had sworn an oath to them by the Lord, the God of Israel. And the whole assembly grumbled against the leaders, but all the leaders answered, "We have given them our oath by the Lord, the God of Israel, and we cannot touch them now. This is what we will do to them. We will let them live, so that God's wrath will not fall on us for breaking the oath we swore to them." They continued, "Let them live, but let them be woodcutters and water carriers in the service of the whole assembly." So the leaders' promise to keep to them was kept. Then Joshua summoned the Gibeonites and said, "Why did you deceive us by saying we live a long way from you? Why, actually, you live near us. You are now under a curse, and you will never be released from the service as woodcutters and water carriers for the house of the Lord, my God." And they answered Joshua, "Oh, your servants were to give you the whole land and to wipe out all its inhabitants from before you. So we feared for our lives because of you, and that is why we did this. We are now in your hands. Do to us whatever seems good and right to you." So Joshua saved them from the Israelites, and they did not kill them. That day he made the Gibeonites woodcutters and water carriers for the assembly to provide for the needs of the altar of the Lord at the place the Lord would choose. And that is what they are to this day. Chapter 10. Oh.
Went so fast you didn't even know.
That's right.
All right, chapter 10. The sun stands still. Now Adonai Zedeki, king of Jerusalem, heard that Joshua had taken Ai and totally destroyed it, doing to Ai as its king as he had done to Jericho and its king, and that the people of Gibeon had made a treaty of peace with Israel and had become their allies. He and his people were very much alarmed at this, because Gibeon was an important city, like one of the royal cities. It was larger than Ai, and all its men were good fighters. So Adonai Zedeki, king of Jerusalem, appealed to Hoam, king of Hebron, Piram, king of Jarmuth, and Japheth, king of Lachish, and Debri, king of Eglon. Come up and help me attack Gibeon, he said, because it has made peace with Joshua and the Israelites. Then the 5 kings of the Amorites, the king of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon, joined forces. They moved up with their troops and took up position against Gibeon and attacked it. The Gibeonites then sent word to Joshua in the camp of Gilgal, do not abandon your servants. Come up to us quickly and save us. Help us, because all the Amorite kings from the hill country have joined forces against us. So Joshua marched up from Gilgal with his entire army, including all of the best fighting men. The Lord said to Joshua, do not be afraid of them. I have given them into your hands. Not one of them will be able to withstand you. After an all-night march from Gilgal, Joshua took them by surprise. The Lord threw them into confusion before Israel. So Joshua and the Israelites defeated them completely at Gibeon. Israelites pursued them along the road going up to Beth Horon and cut them down all the way to Azekah and Makkedah. And they fled before Israel on the road before. I'm getting to go. As they fled before Israel on the road down from Beth Horon to Azekah, the Lord hurled large hailstones down on the men, and more of them died from the hail than were killed from the swords of the Israelites. On the day of the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, Sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still and the moon stopped, till the nations avenged itself on its enemies. As it is written in the book of Jashar, the sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day. There has never been a day like it before or since, a day when the Lord listened to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel. Then Joshua returned with all of the Israel to the camp of Gilgal. 5 Amorites kings killed. Now the 5 kings have fled and hidden in the cave of Makkedah. When Joshua was told that the 5 kings had been found hidden in the cave, he said, roll large rocks up to the mouth of the cave and post some men there to guard it. But don't stop. Pursue your enemies, attack them from the rear, and don't let them reach their cities, for the Lord your God has given them into your hand. So Joshua and the Israelites defeated them completely, but a few survivors managed to reach the fortified cities. The whole army then returned safely to Joshua in the camp of Makkedah, and no one uttered a word against the Israelites. Joshua said, open the mouth of the cave and bring those 5 kings out to me. So they brought the 5 kings out of the cave, the kings of Jerusalem, Hebron, Jarmuth, Lachish, and Eglon. When they had brought the kings to Joshua, he summoned all the men of Israel and said to the army commanders who had come with them, come here and put your feet on the necks of these kings. So they came forward and placed their feet on their necks. Joshua said to them, do not be afraid and do not be discouraged. Be strong and courageous. This is what the Lord will do to all the enemies you are going to fight. Oh, sorry. I went to the next one. Sorry, 1 second. This is what the Lord will do to all the enemies you are going to fight. Then Joshua put the kings to death and exposed their bodies on 5 poles, and they were left hanging on the poles until evening. At sunset, Joshua gave the order, and they took them down from the poles and threw them into the cave, where they had been hiding. At the mouth of the cave they placed large rocks, which are there to this day. Southern cities conquered. That day Joshua took Makkedah. He put the city and its king to the sword and totally destroyed everyone in it. He left no survivors, and he did to the king of Makkedah as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Makkedah to Libnah and attacked it. The Lord also gave the city and its king into Israel's hands. The city and everyone in it Joshua put to the sword. He let no survivors there, and he did it to its king as he had done to the king of Jericho. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Libnah to Lachish. He took up positions against it and attacked it. The Lord gave Lachish into Israel's hands, and Joshua took it on the second day. The city and everyone in it put to the sword, just as he had done in Libnah. Meanwhile, Horam, king of Gezer, had come up to help Lachish, but Joshua defeated him and his army until no survivors were left. Then Joshua and all Israel with him moved on from Lachish to Eglon. They took up positions against it and attacked it. They captured it that same day and put it to the sword and totally destroyed everyone in it, just as they had done to Lachish. Then Joshua and all Israel with him went up from Eglon to Hebron and attacked it. They took the city and put the sword, together with its kings, its villages, and everyone in it. They left no survivors. Just as Eglon, they totally destroyed it and everyone in it. Then Joshua and all Israel with him turned around and attacked Debir. They took the city, its kings, and its villages, and put them to the sword. Everyone in it they totally destroyed. They left no survivors. They did to Debir as its king, as they had done to Libnah and its king, and to Hebron. So Joshua subdued the whole region, including the hill country, the Negev, the western foothills, and the mountain slopes. Together with all their kings, he left no survivors. He totally destroyed all who breathed, just as the Lord, the God of Israel, had commanded. Joshua subdued them from Kadesh Barnea to Gaza, and from the whole region of Goshen to Gibeon. All these kings and their lands Joshua conquered into one campaign, because the Lord, the God of Israel, fought for Israel. Then Joshua returned with Israel to the camp of Gilgal. When Jabin, king of Hazor, heard of this, he sent word to Jobab, king of Madon, to the kings of Sherman and Akishaphat, to the northern kings who were in the mountains, and the Arab south of Kinnereth, in the western foothills, and in the Nopath door of the west, to the Canaanites in the east and west, to the Amorites, Hittites, Perizzites, Jebusites in the hill country, and the Hivites below Hermon, in the region of Mizpah. They came out with all their troops and a large number of horses and chariots, a huge army as numerous as the sand on the seashore. All the kings joined forces and made camp together at the waters of Merom to fight against Israel. The Lord said to Joshua, "Do not be afraid of them, because by this time tomorrow I will hand all of them slain over to Israel. You are to hamstring their horses and burn their chariots." So Joshua and his whole army came against them suddenly as the waters at the water of Merom, and attacked them. And the Lord gave them into the hand of Israel. They defeated them and pursued them all the way to Greater Sidon, to Misrephoth-Maim, and to the valley of Mizpah on the east, until no survivors were left. Joshua did to them as the Lord had directed. He hamstrung their horses and burned their chariots. At this time Joshua turned back and captured Hazor and put its king to the sword. Hazor had been the head of all these kingdoms. Everyone in it they put to the sword. They totally destroyed them, not sparing anyone that breathed, and he burned Hazor itself. Joshua took all these royal cities and their kings and put them to the sword. He totally destroyed them, as Moses, the servant of the Lord, had command. Yet Israel did not burn any of the cities built on their mounds, except Hazor, which Joshua burned. The Israelites carried off for themselves all the plunder and livestock of these cities, but all the people they put to the sword until they completely destroyed them, not sparing anyone that breathed. as the Lord commanded his servant Moses. So Moses commanded Joshua, and Joshua did it. He left nothing undone of all that the Lord commanded Moses. So Joshua took the entire land, the hill country, all the Negev, the whole region of Goshen, the western foothills, the Abraham, and the mountains of Israel with their foothills, from Mount Halak, which rises towards Seir, to Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon, below Mount Hermon. He captured all their kings and put them to death. Joshua waged war against all these kings for a long time, except for the Hivites living in Gibeon. Not one city made a treaty of peace with the Israelites, who took them all in battle. For it was the Lord himself who hardened their hearts to wage war against Israel, so that he might destroy them totally, exterminating them without mercy, as the Lord had commanded Moses. At this time Joshua went and destroyed the Anakites from the hill country, from Hebron, Debris, and Anab, from the hill country of Judah, and from the hill country of Israel. Joshua totally destroyed them and their towns. No Anakites were left in the Israel territory. Only in Gaza, Gath, and Ashdod did any survive. So Joshua took their entire land, just as the Lord had directed Moses, and he gave it as an inheritance to Israel, according to their tribal divisions. Then the land had rest from war. List of defeated kings. These are the kings of the land whom the Israelites had defeated, and whom territories they took over east of the Jordan, from the Aron Gorge to Mount Hermon, including all the eastern side of the Arabab. Sihon, king of the Amorites, who reigned in Heshbon. He ruled from Aron to the rim of Aron Gorge, from the middle of the gorge to the Jabbok River, which is the border of the Ammonites. This included half of Gilead. He also ruled over the eastern Arab, from the Sea of Galilee to the Sea of Arab, that is the Dead Sea, to both Jesmoth to the southward below the slopes of Pisgah. This one's going to be rough. And the territory of Og, king of Bashan, one of the last of the Reputites, who reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei. He ruled over Mount Hermon, Salika, all of Bashan, to the border of the people of Gesher and Makkah, and half of Gilead to the border of Sihon, king of Heshbon. Moses, the servant of the Lord, and the Israelites conquered them, and Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave their land to Reubenites, the Gadites, and half tribe of Manasseh to be their possessions. Here is a list of kings of the land that Joshua and the Israelites conquered on the west side of the Jordan, from Baal Gad in the valley of Lebanon to Mount Halak, which rises towards Seir. Joshua gave their lands as inheritance to the tribes of Israel, according to their tribal divisions. The land included the hill country, the western foothills, the Arabim, the mountain slopes, the wilderness, and the Negev. These were the lands of the Hittites, Amorites, Canaanites, Perizzites, Hittites, and Jebusites. These were the kings: the king of Jericho, the king of Ai near Bethel, the king of Jerusalem, the king of Hebron, the king of Jarmuth, the king of Lachish, the king of Eglon, king of Jezer, the king of Debir, the king of Jeder, the king of Harmo, the king of Arad, the king of Libnah, the king of Adumah, the king of Mattokai, the king of Bethel, the king of Tapu, the king of Hefer, the king of Abki, the king of Lashon, the king of Madden, the king of Hazor, the king of Shimor, Moran, the king of Aksophin, the king of Tanach, the king of Megiddo, the king of Kesha, the king of Jacoma and Carmel, the king of Dor and Norfador the king of Joimai, and Gilab the king of Tirzah. 31 kings in all.
Wow.
There you go.
Good job, bro.
You
Good
got
job.
it. Now,
Chapter 13.
last one was Testament.
When Joshua had grown old, the Lord said to him, "You are now very old, and there are still very large areas of land to be taken over. This is the land that remains, all the region of the Philistines and the Geshurites, from the Sihor River on the east of Egypt to the territory of the Ekron on the north. All of it counted as Canaanite, though held by the 5 Philistine rulers in Gaza, Ashdod, Ashkelon, Gath, and Ekron, the territory of the Avites on the south, and all the land of the Canaanites from Ara of the Sidonians, as far as Aphek and the border of the Amorites, the area of Byblos, and all of Lebanon to the east, from Baal Gad below the Mount Hermon to Labo Hamath. As for all the inhabitants of the mountain regions from Lebanon to Misrephoth-Maim, that is, all the Sidonians, I myself will drive them out before the Israelites. Be sure to allocate this land to Israel for an inheritance, as I have instructed you, and divide it as an inheritance among the 9 tribes and half the tribe of Manasseh. The other half of Manasseh, the Reubenites and the Gadites, had received the inheritance that Moses had given them east of the Jordan, as he, the servant of the Lord, had assigned it to them. It extended from Aror on the rim of the Arnon Gorge and from the town in the middle of the gorge, and included the whole plateau of Medeba as far as Dibon, and all the towns of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon out to the border of the Ammonites. It also included Gilead, the territory of the people of Geshur and Maachah, and all of Mount Hermon, and all of Bashan as far as Salakai. That is, the whole kingdom of Og and Bashan, who had reigned in Ashtaroth and Edrei. He was the last of the Rephaites. Moses had defeated them and taken over the land, but the Israelites did not drive out the people of Geshur and Maachah, so they continued to live among the Israelites to this day. But to the tribe of Levi, he gave no inheritance, since the food offerings presented to the Lord, the God of Israel, are their inheritance as he promised them. This is what Moses had given to the tribe of Reuben according to its clans. The territory from Aurora on the rim of the Arnon Gorge and from the town in the middle of the gorge, and the whole plateau past Medeba to Heshbon, and all its towns on the plateau, including Dibon, Bamuth Baal, Beth Baal Mon, Jahaz, Kedemoth, Mephath, Kirathan, Sibmah, Zareth Shahar on the hill in the valley, Beth Peor, the slopes of Pisgah, and Beth Jesimuth, all the towns on the plateau and the entire realm of Sihon, king of the Amorites, who ruled at Heshbon. Moses had defeated him and the Midianite chiefs, Evi, Rechem, Zur, Hur, and Reba, princes allied with Sihon, who lived in that country. In addition to those slain in battle, the Israelites had put to the sword Balaam, son of Beor, who practiced divination. The boundary of the Reubenites was the bank of the Jordan, and these towns and their villages were the inheritance of the Reubenites according to their clans. This is what Moses had given to the tribe of Gad according to its clans: the territory of Jazer, all the towns of Gilead, and half the Ammonite country as far as Aror near Rabbah, and from Heshbon to Ramath Mizpah and Betonim, and from Mahanaim to the territory of Debir, and in the valley Beth Haram, Beth Nimrah, Sukkoth, and Zaphon was the rest of the realm of the Sihon king of Heshbon, the east side of the Jordan, the territory up to the end of the Sea of Galilee. And these towns and villages and their villages were the inheritance of the Gadites according to their clans. And this is what Moses is giving to the half tribe of Manasseh, that is, to the half the family of the descendants of Manasseh, according to its clans. The territory extending from Mahanaim and including all of Bashan, the entire realm of Og, king of Bashan, all the settlements of Jair in Bashan, 60 towns, half of Gilead and Ashtoreth and Edrei, the royal cities of Og in Bashan. This was for the descendants of Machir, son of Manasseh, for half of the sons of Machir according to their clans. This is the inheritance Moses had given when he was in the plains of Moab across the Jordan east of Jericho. But to the tribe of Levi, Moses had given no inheritance. The Lord, the God of Israel, is their inheritance as he promised them. Chapter 14. Now these are the areas the Israelites received as an inheritance in the land of Canaan, which Eleazar the priest, Joshua son of Nun, and the heads of the tribal clans of Israel allotted to them. Their inheritances were assigned by lot to the 9.5 tribes as the Lord had commanded through Moses. Moses had granted the 2.5 tribes their inheritance east of the Jordan, but had not guaranteed the Levites an inheritance among the rest. For Joseph's descendants had become 2 tribes, Manasseh and Ephraim. And the Levites received no share of the land, but only towns to live in, with pasture lands for their flocks and herds. So the Israelites divided the land, just as the Lord had commanded Moses. Now the people of Judah approached Joshua at Gilgal, and Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, said to him, "You know what the Lord said to Moses, the man of God at Kadesh Barnea, about you and me? I was 40 years old when Moses, the servant of the Lord, sent me from Kadesh Barnea to explore the land. And I brought him back a report according to my convictions. But my fellow Israelites who went up with me made the hearts of the people melt in fear. I, however, followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly. So on that day Moses swore to me, the land on which your feet have walked will be your inheritance, and that all your children forever, because you have followed the Lord my God wholeheartedly." Now then, just as the Lord promised, he has kept me alive for 45 years since that time. He said this to Moses while Israel moved about in the wilderness. So here I am today, 85 years old. I am still as strong today as the day Moses sent me out. I'm just as vigorous to go out to battle now as I was then. Now give me this hill country that the Lord promised me that day. You yourself heard then that the Anakites were there, and their cities were large and fortified, but the Lord helping me, I would drive them out just as he said. And then Joshua blessed Caleb, son of Jephunneh, and gave him Hebron as his inheritance. So Hebron has belonged to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, the Kenizzite, ever since, because he followed the Lord, the God of Israel, wholeheartedly. And Hebron used to be called Kiriath Arba, after Arba was the greatest man among the Anakites. Then the land had rest from war. The allotment for the tribe of Judah, according to its clans, extended down to the territory of Edom, to the desert of Zin in the extreme south. And their southern boundary started from the bay at the southern end of the Dead Sea. It crossed south of Scorpion Pass. It continued on to Zin and went over to the south of Kadesh Barnea. Then it ran past Hezron up to Adar and curved around to Karka. It then passed along the Azman and joined the Wadi of Egypt, ending at the Mediterranean Sea. This is their southern boundary. The eastern boundary is the Dead Sea as far as the mouth of the Jordan. Now the northern boundary started from the bay of the sea at the mouth of the Jordan. It went to Beth Hogath and continued north to Beth Arba, to the stone of the Bohan, son of Reuben. The boundary then went up to the Beer from the valley of Achor and turned north to Gilgal, which faces the pass of Adumam. south of the gorge. It continued along the waters of En-Shemesh and came out at En-Rogel. And then it ran up the valley of Ben-Hinnon along the eastern slope of the Jebusite city, that is Jerusalem. And from there it climbed to the top of the hill west of the Hinnon Valley at the end of the valley of Rephidim. From the hilltop of the boundary headed toward the spring of the waters of Nephtoah, came out at the towns of Mount Ekron and went down toward Bela, and then, that is Kiriath Jearim, and then it curved westward from Bela to Mount Seir, ran along the northern slope of Mount Jearim, that is Keshalon, and continued down to Beth Shemesh and crossed to Timnah. It went to the northern slope of Ekron. It turned toward the Shikaron, passed along Mount Bela, and reached Jabneel. The boundary ended at the sea. Hold on. The western boundary is the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. These are the boundaries around the people of Judah by their clans. In accordance with the Lord's command to him, Joshua gave to Caleb, son of Jephunneh, a portion in Judah. Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron. Arba was the forefather of Anak. From Hebron, Caleb drove out the 3 Anakites, Shishia, Ahiman, and Talmai, the sons of Anak. And from there, he marched against the people living in the Beer, formerly called Kiriath Sephar. And Caleb said, I will give my daughter Ashka in marriage to the man who attacks and captures Kiriath Sephar. Othniel, son of Kenaz, Caleb's brother, took it, so Caleb gave his daughter Achsah to him in marriage. And one day, when she came to Othniel, she urged him to ask her father for a field. And when she got off her donkey, Caleb asked her, What can I do for you? And she replied, Oh, do me a special favor. Since you have given me land in the Negev, give me also springs of water. So Caleb gave her the upper and lower springs. This is the inheritance of the tribe of Judah according to its clans. The southernmost towns of the tribe of Judah in the Negev toward the boundary of Edom were Kabzeel, Edar, Jagur, Kenath, Dimnah, Adada, Kadesh, Hazor, Ethan, Ziph, Telem, Baalis, Hazor, Hadath, Kiriath, Hezron, that is Hazor, Ammon, Shema, Moldah, Hazar, Kadah, Heshan, Bethpelat, Hazor Shual, Beersheba, Biznah, Bala, Iyam, Ezem, El-Talad, Kishia Haramoth, Kileg, Madama, Sansana, Labath, Sheman, Anin, Raman, a total of 29 towns and their villages. In the western foothills, Estol, Zorath, Asna, Zana, Engadium, Tapua, Enam, Jarmuth, Adullam, Soka, Azekah, Sharon, Adinathum, and Gedereth, or Gerdathim, 14 towns and their villages. Zenon, Hadassah, Megal Gad, Dilan, Mizpah, Jokiel, Lachish, Bokath Eglon, Kaban, Lahas, Kittelish, Gederath, Beth Dagon, Namath, and Makada, 16 towns and their villages. Libnah, Esther, Ashton, Ebath, Ashen, Nezib, Keilah, Akzib, and Marish, 9 towns and their villages. Ekron, with its surrounding settlements and villages west of Ekron, all that were in the vicinity of Ashdod, together with their villages, Ashdod, its surrounding settlements and villages, and Gaza, its settlements and villages as far as the Wadi of Egypt and the coastline of the Mediterranean Sea. In the hill country, Shamir, Jatir, Sokoth, Dana, Kirath, Sana, that is the beard, Anab, Estramoth, Anim, Goshen, Holon, and Gilos, 11 towns and their villages. Arab, Duma, Eshan, Janam, Beth, and Tapua, Apkina, Humath, Kiranama, that is Hebron, and Zior, 9 towns and their villages. Maon, Carmel, Ziba, Zuda, Zeriel, Jokadim, Zano, Cain, Gibeth, and Timnah, 10 towns and their villages. Halo, Bethzur, Gedor, Merath, Bethanan, and Ekelton, 6 towns and their village. Kirith, Baal, that is Kirith, Jeram, and Rabbah, 2 towns and their villages. In the wilderness, Beth Araba, Midian, Sekakar, Nibshan, the city of salt, and in Gedai, 6 towns and their villages. Judah could not dislodge the Jebusites who were living in Jerusalem. To this day, the Jebusites live there with the people of Judah.
That's a great job, brother. Frankie would be really proud of you. You know that?
You think you would?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Frankie does a little English stuff.
My son knows Arabic, and he would really do good at this. I should have brought him along, but he's stuck somewhere in the military.
Well, you did a great job, James. You did a great job tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As always, we try to announce the readers for next week. Would you like to know who they are, Mariah?
Yes.
We have the mayor of Harrison coming.
Yes!
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. Bill Nyer will be here, along with Pastor Chris Kesson. So we'll have some great readers next week. That'll be great.
I'm excited for those guys. I know both of them.
And Frank, you're going to be our tech guy next week because Brother Rob won't be here, so he'll give you a crash course here in a minute. Hopefully not.
Wait a minute, I got a granddaughter that's 7. She can do a better job than I can.
Well, we thank you all for joining us
Yes.
tonight, and it was a blessing. We hope you were blessed as well.
Be
Good night.
blessed.